get anxious listening to that video every week. I don't even know what's happening behind me, but I'm like, something's going on, right? Every time. So thanks for being here today. We're continuing our Panic Button series, and maybe you're like me. You've hit the button a few times in your life. I live in this world where, like, one moment I'm like, everything's great. Everything's just hunky-dory. Like, I love my life, right? And then sometimes it just dips really, really fast, and all of a sudden I'm just like, for no apparent reason, I'm like, oh no, like things are really bad right now. And you kind of find yourself kind of going on the waves back and forth in moments in your life. One thing that I know is happening right now, so we're kind of wrapping up summer, right? Everybody getting back in the swing of things. Parents, are you ready for school? Any parents ready for school? Nope, see? How about kids ready? Kids, most of the teens left. But, you know, some people are ready for that. Some people like, who are my people you're like, you know what, I actually like getting back in the rhythm of things? Anybody willing to admit that today? All right? Okay. All right. Maybe some of you are like, no, summer for the rest of my life, baby. That's what I want to do. So we live in this world where we do, like, I dread the end of summer, even though, I mean, I haven't been to school in years. I'm still just like, oh, man, school's about to start, right? But I'm also the type of person, and I've been this way since I was little. I don't like the end of things. Like when you're doing something, it's like, oh, it's almost over. Like a trip or an event or something fun you're doing, just something you're like, oh man, it's almost over. Like I get this pit in my stomach when things are over. Like the way I describe it is like, kind of like if you're into Christmas. I know not everyone's into Christmas, and that's fine. But like Christmas time, like even if you're not into it, at least you can be like, oh, I mean, people are into stuff. Like there's songs playing all the time. There's lights. There's decorations. There's like all these extra things going on, right? And then, you know, we do special things at church, and you do special things at the school, and all this cool stuff. And then you have that break, and you're with your kids, and they get to open up gifts, and it's fun, and it's all that. And then it's like that last gift open, and it's like, it's over. Like, it's over. It's like, now you got to clean this stuff up. Now you got to put all the decorations up. Now you got to live in the cold months for the next 3 months of your life, just hating yourself, right? I mean, it's just all this, like, that feeling of just like, oh, man, this is wrapping up. Like, I get that when we go on, like, a vacation or something. The very last, I'm just like, oh, man, this is it, right? My wife and I just recently were able to go on a couple days. It was me and her and then some of our friends. We got to go on a cruise. And I got that feeling like the last day. I'm like, oh, man, this is almost over, right? Like, I can't believe it. And a lot of times we find ourselves in that place where you're coming to the end of something. And there's just this grief that starts to take over. And you start to spiral and you start to get into this whirlwind of emotions of just like, what's happening right now? And I wonder for you, maybe you're like that, because here's what I end up doing. When we do get in the rhythm of things, when we have things going on, we're just heading to the next event. We're heading to the next place. I know I tell you guys all the time, but I have 3 boys, and they're at 3 different stages of their life. And you guys who have kids or have had your kids in your home before and all those things, you know what that world's like. It's just you're going from one thing to the other. And we keep lying to ourselves, telling us in a moment of life, when this season's over, things will get easier soon. And all you guys are out there going, no, it's not. That's not how this works, right? You just go to another crazy season. You just go to another crazy part of life. And sometimes when you start to think about all of it, and it all starts to like just stack on top of you, and life begins to happen. And then in the middle of all that, something happens that you weren't planned for, and something happens that you weren't prepared for, and it may be something good, but it may be something not so good, and now you're trying to deal with that, and you're dealing with all these things of family and finances and just life in general, and you find yourself to a point where you're like, you know what, I'm not sure I can go any further in this current state. I don't think that I could push forth any more than I already am. You see, last week, Trent talked about this idea of saying, I just can't do this anymore. I can't find myself doing this thing anymore and living this type of life anymore. And I wonder today for you, if those things that you carry in your life, you're like, yeah, I can handle it, I can deal with it. But maybe there's a moment where you're like, you know what, I don't know if I can anymore. I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if I can handle it, and I'm not sure that I can move any further. I can try and hold it together, but I don't know if I'm ever going to progress. I don't know if I'm ever going to move forward. The word we like to use is burnout, right? I'm just burnout right now. I'm burning from both ends right now, and I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to deal with it. And we talked last week about this Old Testament story of this guy, Elijah. He was a prophet of God. And the whole story comes from the book of 1 Kings. There's 1st and 2nd Kings. The whole story is about that. It's about kings is what it is. So the whole idea behind 1st and 2nd Kings is that there were these kings that were appointed for the people of God, and their goal was to be a God-fearing king and to show them who God is. Well, they also had these prophets that God sent to them to speak to them and say, hey, listen, do these things and God will bless this nation. Some of the kings did it. Some of the kings did not. The king in Elijah's time, his name was Ahab, he wasn't doing it. He wasn't doing what God wanted him to do. He had all these other people, including his wife Jezebel, who were telling him something completely different. They were saying, listen, I want you to worship this God. I want you to worship this way and do not worship the God of Israel. So Elijah said, Ahab, multiple times, Ahab, it's not going to work. You need to turn. You need to turn. You need to stop doing that. He doesn't listen. So eventually there's this big showdown with the prophets of their God, Baal, and the prophet of the God of Israel. And they're standing forth, and they have this big showdown on a mountain. And they're gonna show how their God is going to bring down fire. Nothing happens. They do all this crazy stuff, dances, and literally are like cutting themselves open, just wild stuff, trying to get their God to be summoned, right? Doesn't happen. So then Elijah does this amazing thing where not only is he going to get this altar to set on fire, but he wants them to literally soak it with water, like literally waterlog this thing so that there is no doubt of who God is. Wouldn't you know it, God shows up, fire rains down from heaven and just encapsulates everything that is on this altar. And boom, God is showing up in a wild way. Elijah then gets real savage and he says, all right, these prophets, I want you to take them over to the side and I want you to take care of business. Get them out of here. So they slaughter these guys. They're gone, dude. It's messed up what happened, right? Those guys are out of it, right? So then after that happens, he's been also testifying, he's been also prophesying how there's going to be rain coming. They haven't had rain forever. And right after this whole showdown on the mountain, he says, I think there's rain coming. And wouldn't you know it, a big dark cloud begins to appear. Rain is there. And so you have this huge victory for the people of God. You have this huge victory for the prophet of God. As he's sharing all these things, he's on top of the mountain. Things are great, right? Things are wonderful. He is now proclaiming and showing how powerful God is. And he was able to have God, through prayer, come down and do something amazing for him, right? To profess how good he is. And the rain came, and it's like everything's great. Then things weren't not so great. Word gets back to the wife of King Ahab, Jezebel. And Jezebel says, send out word. I'm going to find you, Elijah. And when I find you, it ain't going to be good. So he's like, oh boy. So what does he do? He hightails it out of there. He runs. He decides he's going to get out of there. He's got to run. He's got to find his way out of it. So as he was in this high point and things were going great for him, and now he's had the whole rain thing and all this was great. Now all of a sudden he's running for his life. Now he thinks he's going to be killed. And so he's running and running and running, and he's not sure what he's going to do. He's so exhausted. He's so tired. He's so burnt out in this moment that he feels like he's not going to be able to go any further. So much so that we find him under a tree, exhausted, lying down. Things are not going well for him. I wonder today if you've had a moment in your life, maybe it's now, maybe it was in the past, where you just fell down under the tree, where you just laid out and said, I'm done. I got nothing left. I am literally burnt out on life right now. I found myself in that point before. I've been there. In fact, wasn't too long ago, where there were moments in my life, and listen, I've been doing this now for almost 20 years, and there was a moment there where I was like, I'm not sure if I can do this anymore. I'm not sure if this is for me. I'm not sure that I can go any further in what I'm supposed to be doing. And I started having doubts and fears and depression and so many things that I've struggled and gone through with that maybe you have as well. For you, of course, maybe it's not being a pastor or something. Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's your family life. Maybe it's just trying to hold things together. Maybe it's your marriage. Maybe it's something that you thought would be solved by now, but still you just find yourself in the middle of it, still going through it. And now you're tired. You're exhausted. You are completely empty, and you want it over with. I want to show you today what can happen when we get in that stage, because many of us find ourselves there, and I'm guilty of it myself. But there was a pastor that shared some ideas, some insights into what burnout is. And I want to share that with you today as we look at the story of Elijah here, because I think it's so important for us to see. Even guys thousands of years ago, we're dealing with the things that we're dealing with here in 2026, right? First thing that I want you guys to understand when it comes to burnout is burnout makes you run. When you're just tired and you can't deal with it anymore, you want to get away. You want to make sure that there's nothing else that you want to try and get yourself out of the situation. You are trying to escape reality, right? You're trying to find yourself in a place where you don't have to think about it, you don't have to look at it, you don't have to deal with it, so you want to escape. You begin to run. Look at what it says here in 1 Kings 19:3. It said that Elijah was afraid and he fled for his life. He was so scared that he knew that he had to run. Now, what's funny about that is he was running in the chapter right before. If you look back, if you're reading through, he literally ran 6 miles to try and get ahead of King Ahab so that he could tell him about the rain and say, hey, turn from God one more time. He was trying to give him another chance. So this dude's been running for a while. And now he's running again. Now he's running to save his life. And if you've ever been in a situation where you run out of fear, that's not a fun run, right? Any runners in here? Does anybody go running or try to run? Anybody at all? No? I run for my life. I run to try and survive, right? I don't do it for fun, all right? But I do often go running, and not recently. But I often go running, and the thing that I have found out about running is, as much as I enjoy it, I like having headphones in, listen to music, listen to a podcast, kind of get out of your own head for a second. It's fun. But also, a lot of times, after I run, like the next day, I feel like a baby deer when I'm walking. You know, I'm just... like, my legs kill me now. Used to never bother me. And someone told me once, they say, you need to get new shoes. And I was like, I'm not one of those old dudes that needs a pair of shoes so that my feet feel. Guys, I got Hoka's, changed my life. Changed my life. I'm telling you, it was great. My point being is that running hurts. Running is not comfortable. And when you're exhausted and when you're tired and when you're burnt out, guess what? It just adds to the pain. Elijah is adding to his exhaustion. He's adding to his pain because now he is running. And when you're burnt out and you run and you try to escape, you not only try to escape physically, but many times you try to escape mentally. Some of you in your life are so burnt out that mentally you are gone in most situations. You have found yourself removed from your family's life. You have found yourself removed from the tasks at hand and the job that you work and the things that need to be dealt with, that you're just trying to find yourself escape from reality. I want you to know that a lot of times we find ourselves down in our cellular devices and find ourselves in different things that maybe will just take us out of that for a minute, and we can run away from the problem that's in front of us because we're burnt out and we're tired and we don't want to deal with it anymore. So we try to find an escape. That's exactly what Elijah was doing. He's like, I got to get out of here. I know what's at the end of this for me, and I have to run. I have to get out of it. Burnout not only makes you run, it also makes you isolate. You see, when he actually got to the point where he thought he couldn't go anymore, look what he actually does here. This is right after that part in verse 3. He says in verse 4, it says, he left his servant there. Then he went on alone into the wilderness. He had somebody with him. He wasn't just all alone. He had a servant with him. And he actually tells the servant, stay here. I'm going way out in the wilderness. He decided in that moment he was going to go by himself. And not only did he decide to go by himself, because we find him in a spot where he's totally alone, and now he thinks he is totally all alone, right? But he put himself in that position. How often do we do that? That we have people who care about us, who want to be there for us, who want to help us, who want us to share what's going on in our lives, but we have decided to leave them behind so that we can suffer in silence, or that we can suffer in solitude, right? We tell ourselves things like, I can do this alone. I can handle this. I can deal with this. Or, here's the best part, if you're anything like me, we push people out and then we go, I'm all alone. No one cares about me. Shut up, get out of the way, get out of here, right? When there's people there that care, this is exactly what's happening. He has found himself in a place where he is by himself, he's exhausted, and he's not sure what to do. I want you to know the best part about what is happening in this story that we can see from Elijah is that he is in this spiral right now because he is by himself and he is isolated. You and I were never meant to carry burdens alone, ever. And not only do we have that from God, but he gives us people in our lives to take those burdens, to be there for each other, to watch out for each other. Not just family, not just the people that we marry, but the community that we build and the people and the faith and trust that we have around from other people in our lives. They are actually meant by God to help us go through those difficult moments when we feel burnout, when we feel exhausted. Burnout will make you isolate. Burnout will tell you that you're all by yourself. Burnout will tell you that no one else has dealt with the thing that you are dealing with. Burnout will tell you that you are on your own. So when you think that you're running away and that you're out of the situation, when you feel like you're all alone, you have nowhere else to turn, and you have no one that you can talk to, including God himself, the last thing that burnout does is it makes you spiral. It makes you go somewhere in your head that you never thought that you could possibly go. What ends up happening with Elijah after he gets under this tree and he thinks he's all alone and he's running for his life? What does he ask God to do? He says, I have had enough, Lord, take my life. He has now gotten to the point where he's suicidal. He's like, I want my life to end. I want it over with. This is done. I've had enough. I can't go any further. I want life to be over. And it seems really dark, and it seems really grim as we find Elijah all by himself. And let's be honest, if the story ended there, you'd say, well, because we read that and we try to reason, right? Like when I read that, I'm like, you got somebody trying to kill you. Now you want to kill you. You were running because you didn't want to die, but now you want to die. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, what's going on in this moment? It's because he is isolated and spiraled so much that he's incoherent. He's making the craziest claims, and he's doing the most right now because he is so far out and so burnt out that he has nothing left, that he would rather for God just to take his life because he doesn't want to deal with what may be happening here in the near future. Burnout makes you spiral. Exhaustion can do that. It changes how you see things. It changes how you see people. It changes how you see people's opinions. It changes how you even think people are thinking about you. And you start coming up with stories. Anybody like me, you hear one thing and you go, why'd they say that? Well, maybe they meant that. And the next thing you know, you're 10 stories into something that never, ever even happened or occurred in your life. But you somehow in your messed up brain decided that's what's going on. Exhaustion can do that. Burnout can do that in your life. We used to do, in high school, I don't know if this actually helps or if they were just messing with us, but in weightlifting, we used to do, it was literally called burnouts. And what we would do, we would take the curl bar, all right, and they would add like, I don't know, 10s, 5s, something real small on the ends of it, right? So you'd start out something real light. And okay, that's easy. One time, that's all you do, just one curl. Boom, hit it, right? They add 2 more on top. Another curl, okay, a little harder. Keep going, all the way till you fill it up. You can't put any more on it. And when you get up to that point, it's like, you're hurting, right? You're getting all the way up. Okay, that really stunk. Then they take those 2 off, and you do it again. Then you take those 2 off. And what's funny is, it's the funniest thing to watch. It's not the funniest thing to do. It is the funniest thing to watch because these dudes, I'm talking big linemen, it don't matter who it is, they are now taking this thing. They get all of the weights off of this single curl bar with no weights on it, and they're literally taking this thing going, and there's nothing on it. And if you just came in on that moment, you'd be like, that is the weakest person I have ever seen in my entire life. But what you didn't see was all the weight that he was carrying beforehand. What you didn't see was all the weight that was put on there and put on him that he had to lift the entire time before he got to the end of that. Many of us are burned out because you've been lifting and lifting and lifting. And even though in this certain situation that you are in right now, even though it seems little and it seems like you should get over it and you should be dealing with it and it shouldn't be a problem in your life, it's the thing that puts you over the edge. It's the thing that makes you spiral. It's the thing that says, I'm done. I'm over it. I can't do this. I can't go any further. Burnout will make you do that. But as we see the story and as we think, well, I guess this is going to be a grim ending for Elijah, something amazing happens. God meets Elijah in this moment. God finds Elijah under this tree, just saying, end it. Just get it over with. God, take me out because I don't want to have to deal with what the future holds. We find God meeting him. And here's the best part about it, and the most exciting thing for you and for me today as we're dealing with this exhaustion, we're dealing with this emptiness in our life. I want you to know today that God actually will meet an exhausted person. But not only will they meet him, but he will meet them with grace. He will meet them with love. He will meet them with acceptance. I want you to see what ends up happening here. He actually starts to care for Elijah. He takes care of him. Because why? Because God will care for us before he corrects us. You see, we want to go quickly to the correcting part. We want God sometimes to say, get it together, son. Right? But God is going to care for every single one of us before he will even correct us. Look what ends up happening. This is great. Great response here. He is down there, face down, crying to God. God, life's over. Get it over with, right? Just end me right here. God sends an angel. And this is probably the realest verses you'll ever read in the Bible. What does the angel say to Elijah in 1 Kings? This is in 19:5. What does he say? Get up and eat. Get up, get something to eat, dude. Like, you need something to eat right now. Sometimes, guys, the most spiritual thing you and I can do is have a nap and something to eat, right? Sometimes you just need, it's like those old school, remember the Snickers commercials, like, you're not you when you're hangry. You're not you when you're hungry, right? That's literally what's happening here, right? The angel is coming and saying, you need to get up, you need to eat. And here's the wild part. Right here on the rock, there's bread and there's water. So Elijah, he responds. He actually takes a drink of the water and he eats some of the bread. He actually responds. He takes that, right? And he may be, I don't even know what's happening. He may be like crying, oh, God, just end it. I just want it to be over. And he's like, hey, there's food over here. And he's like, he's in this moment. He did it. He responded. He goes back to lamenting. He goes back to hating his life. He goes back to laying down. So much so that the angel comes twice in this situation. The angel shows up twice, and this is what happens. Not only does God care for us before correcting us, just like he did here with Elijah, but he will also give us the strength for the journey that we're dealing with. He will give us strength for the problems that we are going through. It happens again in verse 7. The angel shows up again and says, get up and eat, for there is a long journey ahead of you. So maybe the first time that he was eating it was, listen, I just need to sustain you. I need to take care of you in this very moment. I know you're very fragile. I know that you got a lot going on, but you need to get up and you need to eat something, right? He goes back to laying down. And then the angel shows up again and says, get up again and eat. But you got a long journey ahead of you. And that's exactly what happens. Sustained, but he now has to go 40 days walking through the wilderness as he's dealt with this problem. I want you to know this morning that for you and I, God gave Elijah the strength for the journey, but he gives it to us as well. But he not only says, just go and good luck, but he says, I'm going to go through it with you. He does not ignore the fact that you are going through a hard journey. He looks at you and he says, yeah, this is a lot. He doesn't say, suck it up, buttercup. He doesn't say, deal with it. He doesn't say, you'll be okay, it'll be fine, get up, right? I do that with my kids when I say, hey, take the garbage out. Oh, you'll survive, I promise. Get the garbage out now, right? God doesn't handle us that way. God actually goes, yeah, I know, this stinks. Your current situation, the burnout you're feeling, the emptiness that you're going through right now, the lack of answers that you have for your situations, yeah, it's hard. But get up and eat, because the journey ahead of you is going to be tough. It's going to be rough. But I'm with you every step of the way. So he gets up and he eats, because he gives him strength for the journey. Now, you and I look at that, and he's 40 days into this journey, and you're like, okay, 40 days, if you do the math there, I'm thinking 40 days, a loaf of bread, and a cup of water. I don't know if that's enough to make it. I don't know if he's going to be able to sustain that. But it was enough because God provided. Why is that important for us today? Because for you and I, this is the best part. We're looking at this Old Testament story where it truly was, hey, turn, repent, get away, and follow God, and things will go good for you. But you and I both know that there have been times in your life where you've been serving God, or you have been repenting, and you've been turning around, and you've been saying, I'm going to go this way. I'm going to do the right things. I'm going to act the right way. I'm going to say all the right things. I'm going to get baptized. I'm going to do all these things. But yet life doesn't always return the favor. And someone gets sick. Or all of a sudden your wife doesn't want to be married to you anymore. Or your kids are angry at you all the time. And you're like, wait a minute, I thought I was doing this whole thing right. I thought I was making all the right moves. I thought this is how things work. But the best news about all of this is that even when those things don't go right, the way that we are sustained now is through Jesus Christ, because Jesus is now our source. That bread that was provided by God to Elijah, that water that was given to him, guess what? Jesus comes in and says, I am the breath of life, or the bread of life. He comes in and he says, I am the living water. You will never go hungry again. You will never thirst again. Jesus is our source. So what does that mean for you and I? When things don't go our way, we can come to Jesus. We have the source. We can come to Jesus when we're empty. Look at what he says here. In John chapter 6, Jesus is proclaiming who he is, and he tells everyone that he is standing before, he says, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. The best news I have for you, that even though Elijah was provided, and that was going to go by the wayside, and eventually he was going to be hungry again, the source that we have for our moments of burnout, for our moments of emptiness, is someone who says that when I actually partake in this, I won't be hungry again. What am I hungry for? What is it that I'm looking for? What is it that I want to sustain me? We try to find it in all these different things. Not only do we try to find it in the world, but we try to find it in our own flesh, in our own good deeds, and our own things that we think are going to give us acceptance, and it's going to give us our righteousness in our life. When he says, no, I am the source. I am the only thing that can give you this. I want you to know today that it's never been about your goodness, but about his. So, what does that mean for us? I can sit here right now and tell you, and you're probably thinking it, because I know this is where I go. When I start thinking about those negative things, right? You go running, right? You go isolating, staying to yourself, spiraling in your head. You do all these things. So if I were to leave you right now and you walked out the door, what would you tell yourself? Because I know what I would tell myself. Stop running. Stop it, right? Stop isolating. Don't isolate yourself. Stop spiraling. Get out of your own head. Stop doing all that, right? And we could leave and say, that was nice. 3 simple steps to stop hitting the panic button, right? But what if I gave you one simple stop today? What if I gave you one simple step for every single one of us to actually start to see those changes and stop being burnt out, and stop feeling empty, and stop feeling unfulfilled in our life? What if it came down to one stop? What if it was stopping to believe everything that your exhausted brain tells you about yourself? Stop believing everything that your burnout self tells you. So then what do? We start believing what Jesus says about you. How about today, instead of saying this is going to be about me and I have to stop, cut it out. You can't do that anymore. Leave it alone. No, don't touch that button anymore. You have to be better. You have to be better. You know what, God? Just take me out because I can't be better, right? This is what we do. This is where we get. I can't be a better father. I can't be a better husband. I'm no longer able to do these things. God, I quit. I want out. I'm not able to fulfill these anymore. What if I was able just to say, stop believing everything your exhausted and tired and burnout brain says about you? You see, Jesus actually says that for you and I, what we're supposed to do is actually have our mind of his, right? Why? It's a great word that we love to use in our little area. It's called repent, right? Repent. What does that mean for me? What does that mean for you? Well, if you're anything like me, I have always believed that means, hey, stop doing that and start doing this. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Don't touch that. Leave it alone. Follow the rules. Feel bad when you do bad things. What if Jesus meant something different, which he did? It meant change your mind. Stop thinking that this is about you. Stop thinking that you're able to do anything to gain acceptance from me. You see, in the Old Testament, when you see Elijah, that's literally the point. The kings, they were trying to tell the kings, listen, you have to repent. You have to turn away from your sinful ways and you have to follow God. You have to do these or you cannot have God. You can't do it. But when Jesus shows up, he says it's no longer about following the rules to gain acceptance. It's no longer about doing X, Y, Z, or you can't have me. No, he already took care of that. Look at what it tells us. Paul talked about this in Romans to the church. He says in Romans chapter 8, I love this part. After he talks about your place with God now, here's what he says. He says, now there is no condemnation. None. You can't condemn me. You can't do it. What are they going to say now? There is no condemnation for those who belong to Christ Jesus. And because you belong to him, the power of life-giving Spirit has freed you from the power of sin that leads to death. If you have Jesus, you are no longer condemned. But Aaron, I still want to keep doing those things. I feel hungry a lot of times, and I feel like I'm trying. Listen, there is no condemnation because you have been freed from the power of sin that leads to death. I have everlasting life. I am free. What if I started living like it? What if I stopped thinking about all of those things in my life that I think are going to actually change and actually decide that I'm going to have the mind of Jesus and change my mind on this? Instead of this 3-step process, what if I remember what Jesus did for me? He took on my sin. He who knew absolutely no sin, the person who was perfect, became my sin, became my condemnation, became all of my faults and all of my sin and everything that I have ever done wrong. He became that so that you and I could actually be called righteous. Righteous. Today, I get to live a righteous life because of what Jesus did for me. There is now no condemnation. Today, if you feel burnout, if you feel tired, if you feel lonely, if you feel isolated, if you feel like you can't stop running and you feel like you're going to get to a point where you're just going to fall over, I want you to know today that in order to find our way back, we have to get up and we have to eat the bread of life, which gives life to everyone and will never go hungry again. Trust in Jesus. Would you guys bow your heads with me really quick, and we're going to close today. But I want to ask one simple question. If you're like me and maybe in the past year or maybe the past week, I don't know, you found yourself in a place where it's been a struggle. You found yourself in a place where you know it's been hard and you're ready to stop running. You're ready to give up. You don't know how much longer you can hold on. I wonder if, like me, you're ready to stop listening to your messed up head. You want to start believing what Jesus says about who you are in him. And I know that's not going to be everyone's situation, but if that's you today, would you just real quick for me so I can be praying for you and we can support each other? Is there anybody else in this room that says, I've been there and I'm still there right now, and I would love for you just to say a prayer that you help me in my struggle? Yeah. Just pray that God would help me in my struggle. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm burnt out. And I need Jesus. Anybody else today? Anybody else today? Now, not every hand went up, but I do want you to know that if you're in a place, maybe things are great. Maybe things are good. I don't know. I hope it is. That's my prayer. But maybe it's not. Today, maybe we could take a moment and feel for each other, to take on that grief and that exhaustion that other people are feeling, because we were never meant to carry this alone. And if you're not in that place right now, I'd love for you to pray with me today.